slightly shorter panel because we have a film screening afterwards. Michael Vaughn's film Passengers is actually screening at 2 at the music hall. So I think most of us are heading over there. Anyway, yes, I'm Cooper Harris. We're at the Beverly Hills Film, Television, and New Media Festival. And I wanted to welcome my new panelists to the stage. This is Kiri P. Do you want to speak a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi. I have a background in features and television. I've worked in television series. I've worked on major distributed features. So it's been very interesting to hear the other side of it. And seeing how wide the gap still is. Yes.
Kiri's actually a producer on the show Leverage, of which I'm a big fan, and also is integral to producing American History X. Yay.
Hello. Hi, I'm Drew Powell. You might recognize me from such shows as Leverage. I can vouch for the fact that Kiri is an amazing producer. I'm an actor, been out here, originally from Indiana, been out here 10 or 12 years, and character actor in the true sense of the word. I have a character, hence the mustache. Yeah, I just I've done a lot of everything, including online content like 10 years ago, which was really in its infancy. I just did a movie called Straw Dogs that was in theaters. Got another one called Touchback that's coming out next year. And I'm recurring on Leverage when it comes back this fall, so yeah, glad to be here. Thank you. Oh, you see how much they like me? Feelings mutual.
My name is Justin Warren, creator, writer, director, producer of The Band Way, and yeah, which I guess we started as a web series. We structured it as a feature, so I guess I can work with either thing. Yeah, that's it.
I'm Kristen Jones. I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Goodrich, like the deja vu from Important Having a Story. But I have a feature background, and our projects are, for the most part, 90 minutes chapterized, so they are a hybrid between feature and television.
I'm Michael Bond. I'm writer, director, producer. My phone's
Tell them I'll call him back.
Yeah. And I made a film which is, I just need to say this, at 2 p.m. today, you need to leave here and go to the Music Hall Theatre to see my film.
No, ideally they leave at 1:55.
Yeah, leave it here. I'm leave at 2. Leave at 1:55. It's screened at 2. It's called Passengers. It's a Australian film set in Los Angeles, which is an interesting kind of hybrid thing. Cameron Daddo and Angel Milligan, anyone knows this probably. Anyway, so I'm a drama guy, and this is all very new to me too, because I'm not an online guy. I'm normally a digital guy. I'm not a web guy. So this is very educational for me. And you know, I've got a traditional drama film, which we shot on digital. And if we couldn't have done that, we wouldn't have made the film. It would not have been possible to tell that story in the long-form drama format, you know, on film.
That's the perfect segue into my first question. Thank you. So we just spoke for an hour, however long, about kind of the digital impact on television and the crossover there. But I think digital, maybe from a more hardware point of view, but you know, as far as cameras and access to cameras and stuff, it's really changed how we make films. And I know a lot of us create online content, but I think a lot of us also make films still. Is that the case for you?
Yes.
Films, yeah. So I think it's really interesting how everything is coming together. And Michael, if you don't mind just expounding upon how that process was for you and how that enabled you to make your film.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm a story guy, so I'm interested in people. I'm interested in characters. I'm interested in that kind of traditional form of storytelling, the long-form feature kind of thing. And so that's where I work, and that's what fascinates me. It's generally what I go see. So, you know, I've written this film, and I'll give you the pitch just quickly so you know what I'm talking about. It's two Australian people live in Santa Monica, leave their home on a Friday night to go and have dinner with friends in Hollywood. It's Friday night, so they can stuck in traffic. It takes them an hour and a half to get there. By the time they get there, the marriage is over, right? So that's how it happens. So the demise of a relationship in a car in LA traffic, you know, this is the most uncommercial film in the history of cinema. You know, there's no way you're shooting this film and spending real money making a movie because it's just too risky. Financially, it's suicide. So, you know, what made it possible for me was that I a digital camera that might actually be the exact same one, and go shoot the movie. And we shot it in real traffic in a real car. The actor was acting and driving. We shot for 12 hours a day, 3.5 weeks. We got all our permits. We did all the right things. We didn't get shut down halfway through. So we got all the permits, got all the insurances. We were SAG, low budget things. We paid the actors properly. But we did not pay the crew. That's not it. People got, everyone got paid something, and we went out and we made the movie. And I budgeted the film when I wrote it. I budgeted it at about $1 million, and I did not have $1 million. We ended up making the film for $75,000. So we made $1 million movie for $75,000, thanks to passionate people and friends and favors, but not a lot of favors. We did spend money, and thanks to cameras like that, we were able to just go out and shoot with next to no lighting. By the way, it looks fantastic. We had great people, so but we had 3 lights in a car, and the writing's tight, the acting's tight, and it works.
Minimal locations too.
Yeah.
Nice. I think to the flip side of that, you wrote it as a film.
Yeah.
And then shot it digitally. Kristen and Jesse come from a background, at least with Jesse, kind of his was the female abandoned way, which kind of took over everybody's consciousness for a little while there. And you started that actually as an episodic web series, which then cut together as a film. Is that correct?
It was designed as both from the beginning.
Okay, both from the beginning.
Web series and feature.
And that's very cool. And then, Kristen, your content is primarily episodic, but then is 90 minutes, or is it the same from the beginning? Okay.
So we can,
Cool. Jesse, at the time when you did that, that was pretty cutting edge, right? That was kind of...
Yeah, when we came out, but we hadn't heard of it. I guess Sony Crackle did something with Angel of Death, but I'm not totally sure what the process was. I think they shot the feature and then they just cut it up. They said, oh, we can make this a web series too. I'm not totally certain about that, but at the time it was fairly novel. But, yeah.
Okay.
How long ago was this?
This was January 2010.
And Kristen, was that the same process for the content you're developing in Google?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the distributor in terms of how they want the content, but the idea for us is that we have a few different, I hate to call them products, but end results, I guess you could say. Obviously, we like things to hold together as a feature so people can look at it that way, particularly internationally. And then, domestically, places like Hulu are going to put commercials in at about 7 minutes anyway. We'd rather be in control of where those breaks come than them just hand-fist a commercial in there, or an ad of some sort. So I think it kind of came about from a couple different ways. That sometimes you want to just have a few things come out like bite-sized, and then there's also the notion of having things come out in 22-minute format or as a feature. I would think, obviously as things have progressed in the last 5 or 10 years, especially with box sets and DVDs for what people that watch entire series in one go. People want to watch as much as they want when they want to watch, and I think the goal for us is to kind of do the same thing with the feature product.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay. So then I guess at the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm going to talk about television because I want to hear, yours obviously Leverage is a, it's a show, TNT, and are there, I guess, digital aspects that have come to the show? Was it planned with any kind of auxiliary, backup? Say, do you tweet? Are you online? Do you have auxiliary content? Where you have a little web series like Walking Dead just did a web spin-off that complemented the actual show, or not?
No, there's about 5 different answers to that question.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. It's interesting because now in making any product for the mass market, like TNT or features, or if you're going to sell into major distribution or studio distribution, it has to incorporate all of these things that everybody's talking about. But as I'm listening, I'm realizing how big the gap is still between doing something for television and doing something independently. My focus is making money, and that's the bottom line. Everything. So I started as a creative producer. Now I'm in financial Netflix in the second cycle? Can you sell it in other markets and break it down in these little 5-minute segments for cell phone delivery? How can you do it in all these different ways? So digital affects all of filmmaking. You can make, the show that we show on cable is maybe 50% of a network budget. And it's mostly because it's digital. We're digital from the cameras all the way to delivery. You push a button and it goes to TNT via the airwaves. So it reduces your deliverables by 75,000 an episode. So digital affects all the way across the board, but it's changing so rapidly that there's no one thing that works. You have to look at all of it. So yes, it's the cameras, it's the delivery, it's the people that you use, it's how you get the money and pay, and it's all around. Yeah, lots of answers.
Just to piggyback on that. One of the things, after the first season, I was a guest star in I think the 12th episode or something. And in the summertime, because especially with cable, it's not a traditional start in the fall and finish in the spring. I think wisely, they're like, we need to create some content on YouTube stuff online to keep leverage in people's minds. And so one of the things, Beth Reescraft, one of the actors, asked me to come in and help her with a thing, and I did. And then that kind of spun off into its own thing. So we ended up doing a thing that was...
the actor wouldn't leave our offices.
Yeah. Well, it was titled The 5 Stages of Grief for a TV Guest Star. The idea was that I descend upon the electric entertainment offices and beg them to write the character back in. Complete with, singing them songs, singing in the parking lot, doing my laundry in the kitchen. It's on YouTube now, and it was, it was a clever little thing, and I was happy to do it. I thought it was going to be hilarious because I'm like, of course they're going to bring me back in season 2. Cut to season 4. But it was good and it was worthwhile, and I think so that's something that you certainly would have done years ago.
Wait, does it work? So it doesn't work?
I can use that.
It does work. The fact that he was around and he stayed there, I mean, we kept brought him back as a character again. Season 4. I mean, it works.
Wow.
So I think what you touched on, Kiri, is so relevant to, I guess, what I am feeling and sensing as a kind of an indie filmmaker, content creator, is there's so many platforms now that we have access to, which is incredibly exciting, but it's also kind of daunting. It's like, the tyranny of choice. Where do I go? Where do I put my resources? What do I pay for? Do I tweet every day? What's really effective and what's not? For the first panel, people were saying, well, really just find out what you're good at. Find out what you love, what you're good at, and be specific. But then, at a certain point, you do have to think about practical things. Like Kristen was saying, you want to maybe structure it for 90 minutes. What do you guys feel are the really, a few of the biggest things that we should think about when we're first conceptualizing our ideas?
If you need money, if you're a vlogger, then you don't really need money. You just shoot yourself. But I like to do bigger budget live action stuff, so I need money to do that, right? So that's the difference. But in my situation, working with Sony, it was I got my coin cut out. We did like $1 million budget thing and a little bit under, and it was great, except I didn't own the product at the end of the day. And for a web entity, it was a great experience for me. But if I want to do something in the space again, I want to experiment with the model. I really like what Machinimas do, what they're doing. My friend David Van Eysen created the show Receiver with them, and that was funded by Machinima, Google, and their brand Motorola, and he owns the product. So he can now take it wherever. We were pitching Band as a TV series, but Sony owns it, and we pitched a couple places, and then they just pulled the plug, and then that was that. So lights out. But yeah, and I want to make the next step into television and film. So yeah, there's tons of ways to do that.
So own your content.
Yeah.
Well, more to that, that's what we did at Electric Entertainment, the company I've been at for 9 years, is we are the last existing scripted independent company. So we own our content, and that was
around here, all the different platforms, and what's really important for us to keep in mind at the very primary stages of conceptualizing our idea. At the very beginning, do we need to make it 90 minutes? Do we need to think, well, it needs to cut down into 7-minute episodes where we can stick a commercial in where the TV commercial break would be if it were a half-hour show? You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, I think it really goes back, as I said earlier, to the story, and once, you know, if you've got an amazing idea and something that you can kind of sustain, it doesn't matter how long you can sustain it, whether it's 22 minutes, whether it's 90 minutes, whether it's, you know, a full season with, you know, 22 episodes, it really doesn't matter. You can always figure out the kind of packaging, so to speak, later. It's really about the idea, the characters, and the world that you're creating, and I think that's, you know, ideally what we're most concerned with, even more so than how, you know, obviously there has to be a way to sell it, or certain distributors, because we're a pure play studio, so even though we finance everything ourselves, we then, you know, license our stuff to various distributors. But beyond that, we definitely, you know, need to, as long as we feel like we've got somebody who we know we can distribute it to, that's, we can think about part of that.
Okay. Hey, Michael, on your next film, are you going to try to put it online?
This online. Yeah, this is all very interesting because you've got to, you know, what's becoming clear to me is that you've got to be, you know, it's not good enough just to tell a story anymore in the old traditional way. You've got to be really savvy on how you're going to get it out there, and you've got to know who goes to these platforms. Different people go to different kinds of platforms. You know, people use podcasts. You know, some people use Twitter, some people use Facebook, some people use, you know, whatever. And if you are savvy on how you market your film, you're going to have some idea of which aspect of your audience is going to be on which platform, and then develop an idea of how to target those people specifically. The thing that we keep hearing whenever we go to talk to how to get this film out there online is, you know, if you could be really specific about, you know, who your audience is, it's no longer good enough just to make a television commercial and just hit it, you know, 1 million people and hope people turn up if there's an after movie. You know, figure out who your fans are and target them specifically. And this is where things like Facebook and Twitter and these kind of platforms are great. You can build a fan base, and they're going to be different people for different platforms, but you can build a fan base that's very specific, and, you know, and communicate very directly with your audience. And this is something that's, you know, you kind of see me thinking as I'm saying it. It's kind of, this is because it's all kind of new to me too, and, you know, I'm trying to get my head around it and trying to figure out how do I market my film best using these platforms, because this is not my world. You know, I don't come from this, so I have to learn it. If I'm going to be competitive as an independent producer in 5 years, I'm going to have to shit down.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's all what we're struggling with as well, or working with, getting better at. Struggling worse too. Does anybody have questions out there for our panelists? Yes.
Okay. Drew, I love your story. How are you, Glenn? And I think there's a big need for how to do things. Like I got a job a couple of years ago for Warner Brothers to shoot on a green screen with a character. I didn't know how to do it. I went to YouTube, and there were some hotshot young photographers who showed me. So my question: do you think there's a huge need for how-tos, how to get past, you know, things?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. You can find a lot of stuff on YouTube. That is a miraculous thing. I think so. I think so. I mean, I can really speak just from an actor's point of view, and I think one of the things that's interesting for us actors. Are there actors out there? Anybody? Yeah, admit it. It's okay. The interesting thing for us actors in this whole thing is that you hear all this talk about these low budgets, and you know, it's you know, actors get I almost screamed from the back of the room when I heard, you know, don't pay the actors in the last. Unbelievable, because you know. That's your content, bro. You know, that's your people, and I know that, you know, there's minimal budgets and stuff. But as an actor, you really need to pick and choose. It's not, you know, if you're just starting out, you need to take. That's cool. But there is something to be said for saying, you know what, I'm valuable to this project, and I don't just want the videotape. And that's where, as an actor, and as you know, thank God we have a union, because that stuff's important. You know. Shoot it without an actor, or shoot it with, you know, some people off the street and see what happens. There needs to be some value placed on the actor, and there needs to be, you know, we're not talking about getting paid millions of dollars, but we're hearing a lot of talk about all this money that's there to be made, you know, and let's share that shit around a little bit. Support it. If we don't stand up for ourselves, nobody else is going to do it. Sony's not going to do it. Electric freaking Entertainment's not going to do it. I'm kidding. They're great.
I think that's funny, and I'm going to bring up something. I have a question for you. I've recently been to numerous castings where they have a little questionnaire that apparently has no impact on casting, but they ask me how many Facebook fans I have on my fan site. They ask me how many Facebook friends I have. They ask me how many Twitter followers I have. Oh, absolutely. And then they check and verify. Have you experienced this yet?
No.
Just wait. Just wait.
Right?
Yeah. But, oh, yeah, and my cloud number. No, nobody's not there yet. I just take personal pride in it. You guys know cloud? It's an online social networking meter of how influential you are in the social networking space. I'm 72. You have no idea what that means. Don't laugh. Any other questions? Yes, Jake.
In the sort of the micro budget feature world, or the low budget feature world, obviously if you go out and do a web video, especially if you're not really expecting to get paid, you can do permits, you can also do pickups, or you can just totally run and gun it. If you approach that to features, is there any way to sort of undo the damage if you don't have the location release for a building or you didn't have permits? Is there ways to sort of undo that, or is that just something you should just totally avoid? You got to do all the paperwork the right way. It's not just enough to just put the creative in the camera. Is it question mark?
It's, you know, our attitude is we have to do everything by the book, and we do things right, you know, WGA, DGA, and AFTRA, the new media agreement. I mean, that said, and we do have, you know, permit location agreements, whatever. That said, if somebody decides to go get a shot at the airport, and, you know, if we don't know it, we don't know. You know, if we don't know they're doing it, then we don't know they're doing it. I would definitely try and do things the right way, because people, you know, I know, like, for instance, some of the below the line unions now are very much on the lookout for things being done by the book, and you know, there's a big effort to try and turn over various productions and whatnot. You know, I think you just have to be careful, I guess is the point. You know, I would try and do things by the book if you can. If not, definitely, you know, A, for resourcefulness, and plenty of people can do it. And there are definitely ways to do it. You just have to be, like I said, incredibly resourceful.
Yeah, in our case, we just didn't want to get shut down because we were very, you know, we're a very public kind of thing. We were shooting on the freeway during traffic in a Range Rover with 2 lights hanging off the front, one inside, and 6 people crammed into this car. Like there's 2 people in the car, you know. And we're driving down the freeway for 3 weeks. We did not want to have police sirens behind you.
Yeah.
We got it once. And they pulled us over, and they said, "Have you got a permit?" And we said, "Yeah, here it is." And they said, "Okay, off you go." And, you know, we just don't want to get in trouble. It's a different thing, I suppose, if you're shooting somewhere a little more private. A friend of mine was shooting a little YouTube thing the other day, and he was shooting somewhere. It was really dodgy. But he was shooting some, you know, gangster beat the crap out of some guys, and behind some building somewhere down near the airport. And security came around and said, "Hello, what are you doing?" And they said, "We're filming." And he said, "No, you're not." And my friend pulled out his wallet and said, "Yes, we are." Just paid him $40. Yeah, that's fine. Which is, yeah, exactly. So that's right. But in our case, it was just not, you know, we were not going to mess with, you know. It's a funny thing. Another friend of mine was shooting a movie, and she said that the director was producing, the director wanted to do this shot of the car going over a bridge downtown, and she had to get permit 3 different places. One was, I don't know, one side of the city was on this street, but where the bridge ended up was another side of the city, so it was another permit, and to use the bridge it was water power or something, or whatever it is. So she had to get 3 permits for this one shot. It's a pain in the ass, but...
Other questions? Yes, gentlemen,
In terms of low-budget films, has any of you seen Roman Polanski's new movie, Carnage? It's just 4 actors in a small house. It's brilliant.
Yeah. the playwright, is one of the most celebrated playwrights in the world. So, yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know if your point is that it's a contained piece, and yes, I mean, I think what one can take from that comment is that contained pieces are definitely, it just depends on the story. It's a great story, it was a great play, and people can, anybody, and that can actually go into your Cineplex, so that if it's going to go that wide. The point is, it doesn't matter if it's just 4 people in a room talking. It doesn't have to be people blowing, cars off. People can go see whatever. I mean, unfortunately, that example, like I said, costs a lot of money, but some other things don't that are just as good. So.
Yeah, I turned that movie down. Forget you, Roman.
Yes.
Yeah, I was seeing you guys on like social media, experts. I have a question. Why is it that I have 300,000 followers and I'm homeless?
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong?
Wait.
I'm monetized. I'm having that many followers. I'm serious.
Well, at a certain point, you get paid an extensive amount to tweet once. I don't know, some serious stats like, here's some 10,000 I think for
Yeah,
tweet.
but the day you say, I can whiten my teeth with this, you lose so many followers because you're spamming.
But if you genuinely believe in the product and you think it's a good thing that you want other people to use. I mean, yes, I think you would have to be really specific about it. I've had people ask me to tweet about specific products, and if I like them, I say yes. They haven't paid me. That's what I say.
Free product, huh?
Yeah, Ben.
So I just completed a feature film, and I'm wondering, I know in the future definitely digital distribution is the way to go, but for the moment, is still going through the film festival route, trying to get regular studio distributors. I'm still obviously aiming. Should that still be my first goal? And then, as it sounds like, a backup plan would be through digital distribution. Is that still? Do you agree or disagree with that strategy at this moment?
I think it's the other way around. When we were doing Bannon, we were like, should we do like the Sundance route, or what about those guys who did the Sunny in Philadelphia, did that pilot presentation thing? And we're like, well, what's this web series thing? This is like 3 or 4 years ago. Like somebody was saying, it's like you do the festival route and you get like a couple hundred people to see your product, and you do it on your own. You put it online and you get tens of thousands. Maybe more. No.
Unless it's the Beverly Hills Film Festival.
Usually, I think there's validity to both. I mean, I think, it depends on the festival, and if you can get your movie into Sundance, that's, it's the most competitive film festival in the world, probably. So it's, that's fantastic, and you'll definitely get more than a few hundred people to see your project. It depends on the kind of deal that you can procure from there. If you're going to get a very small distribution without naming distributors, if somebody's going to only give you $25,000 and not make any promises about how many cinemas they're going to put it in, that's, whereas you got like an AOL, or say what you want about them, but they've got, 5 million uniques, or 15 million uniques a month, sorry. It's, that's a hell of a lot bigger audience than, potentially some very, very tiny indie distributor who's going to put your film in 3 cinemas. And that's, I think, what I'm trying to educate a lot of people, because obviously having come from the Miramax background, a lot of filmmakers are still very hell-bent on having that theatrical distribution. What they're not realizing is that a couple of them are literally virtually VOD companies with a few cinemas, and that their movies are actually on VOD before they're even in the few cinemas that they're going to put them in, and they're better off potentially going with a different kind of company and getting a hell of a lot more views. And that, I think it's all about how people are going to see your movie and the marketing muscle behind that company.
Okay, one more question.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a statement question, but Carrie, you speak my language. I come from the background of HBO and CAA and ICM, and now I'm a director. And I think it's important to create original, clever content, but how do you make your money?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's so, I would love to talk to you. I mean, I just think it's so important. I think the Bannon Way, I followed that series. hot because I do more action crime. And I think when I did my first project, I didn't own it. But I think your second project, you have the ability to own it. But I thought your series was awesome.
Thank you.
And I want to say one thing, because it's again, it's interesting what I'm hearing. When you're creating something, think about what your end game is and what you want to do with it, because it's different. If your intention is to create something very low budget, just to get a couple people to see it here, or as he's saying, be very specific about what your distribution is. But if your intention is to go bigger, then go bigger. Think bigger, and think how many people, just like they do in television, major networks and major distribution, you have to make a product that has mass appeal. And that's how you're going to get your advertisers, and that's how you're going to get. It's great to be creative and specific, but if that's what you want to do, is be creative and specific and get your vision out there. If your goal is to be in the industry and to be in the business and to make money and to have a mass marketable product, you got to think that way too. How many platforms is this going to appeal to? We did a really interesting experiment with TNT about 4 or 5 years ago called Blank Slate, and they wanted to see if they could do a backdoor pilot with these things called a series inside a series. So we shot 20 5-minute episodes, and they were on the web, TNT webisodes, and we sold them internationally as downloads. And we strung it all together and made it a TV movie, and sold it internationally as a TV movie. But it showed on TNT in the commercial segments between the normal series, so they could see. So the experiment was in how many different ways you could take the same project and cut it up and sell it in as many platforms as possible. So that was the experiment, but it didn't work out. But the point is, know what you're going after and do that. If you're going to make something for the web, don't expect it's going to jump into huge on TV, because you're not making it for TV. You're not making it for the mass audience. If you're going to make something for the mass audience, think that way. And then how many ways that.
Really cool. Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank my panelists for coming.
Just wanted to remind everyone that the party tonight is a beautiful event. It's happening at Donna Spangler's house. It's going to be a great networking event, as well as a wonderful food and drink extravaganza. We have fine wine sponsored by Panel2. We also have beautiful food that's going to be provided by our fabulous caterer. Can you have a round of applause for Johnny at the back there? Johnny Cakes is a brilliant cook and caterer, and he's going to be providing amazing food tonight. Before you all take off, Donna Spangler has a few words. The address for the party is on our website. Excuse me, it is. I want to give it to you right now. So write it down.